our resources, our exploitation has been injudicious, even rapacious of this planet. And now Pakistan is facing what, say, a developed country or a slew of developed countries have done in their backyard. The global West, what we call the North in our climate language, in the Conference of Parties multilateral forums, has gotten rich on the back of very high exploitation of natural resources and, of course, the burning of fossil fuels, which is why the greenhouse gases have gone through the roof, and why we are facing the forest fires, the heat waves, the flooding, the desertification, sometimes even at the same time, and the melting of our glaciers. And we have had 3 times as many glacial lake outburst events, they're called GLOF events, flood events, than we have normally every year. So 3 times as many GLOF events. We have saved human lives because we have monitoring systems in GB, which is bizarrely run by my ministry. That's an anomalous project, but we do it well. So we've been able to save lives, but obviously not infrastructure. When the water rushes in a terrible cascade, nothing stands in its way. But we've had the communities move out in time because you can see that it's coming. So you know, severe consequences, immediate, medium term, and long term. And we've been planning for that yesterday. I had to get the attention of the cabinet. I said, this will keep on recurring. This level of flooding, preceded by drought in Balochistan and Sindh. Again, both are flooded. The north will face different consequences. They dealt with fires and GLOF events, and so nobody really was exempt, no area. Probably Islamabad has been relatively free of huge disasters. We did have the forest fires, but we've been dealing with them at the Margala level, which we run. Now, here's where we stand. What do we do? Do we manage the same targets to be carrying on at 2050 with mitigation goals? Now, in easy words, layman's words, mitigation is literally 2 actions that reduce greenhouse gases, mostly planting trees, and those are the low-cost nature-based solutions, and the other is, of course, completely reducing all reliance on fossil fuels. Most countries have an energy base load. I wish the power minister was here, that even Germany is resorting back to coal right now because the carbon footprint of a war is high. Now, had this war been raging in South Asia, let me tell you, the carbon footprint would have been calculated. We would be hectored every day for being irresponsible leaders, not sorting our problems via diplomacy. That's happening in the heart of Europe, ladies and gentlemen. And it is completely messing up supply chains, food security, water, everything, absolutely everything, you know. But there it is. And it is making countries that had committed, had reduced their carbon footprint to back to, oh, shall we go back to coal? They need a base load. Renewables are not always able to provide the heavy, at this point at least, the heavy base load needed that is constant and reliable. We need batteries, wind and solar, as you know. The only good news for this in Pakistan is that we have the resources to eventually move to renewables, and we are resetting our targets to renewables. We're setting them for our own good. We've already committed very high ambitious NDCs for mitigation targets last year for 50% reduction in our fossil fuel usage, and then grading down of using coal and other non-renewables by 2030, and then other targets by 2050. But the point is, that's fine. Other countries are not necessarily matching their goals. There's nobody to monitor it. Let's be very real. If tomorrow XYZ country, and we're sitting right next to a very big polluter, which is India. It's the 3rd biggest polluter in the world. in greenhouse gases, emitter rather, and nobody will do anything about it if you miss your targets. These are all based on, well, you know, I've made a commitment, I was feeling okay that day at the summit, and Pakistan, all ministries decided, yes, we'll do it. They sent us there, we made the commitment, and we're trying to keep that commitment. But nothing can happen if you don't, right? It really should. Something should happen if you don't, because we are still, I mean, we are managing our disasters far better than other countries. Why? Because we know how to, I guess, with less resources. Now, coming back to the way forward, without too much, discussion on loss and damage, which Pakistan faces a great deal of, and climate change, for instance, impacts 9.1% of our GDP. That's a huge number. It's higher than most African states. And this is from a report that the United Nations SAPM has done on South Asia. The costs are extremely high. They're crippling, and we need to consider this as an all-aspect, cross-cutting, multidimensional, and complex problem. It is, to me, a national security problem. It impacts your infrastructure, your energy, your ability to deliver normal supply chains. It involves our entire rescue relief operations. Half the year now, 41 days of the year will be heat wave now, will be part of a heat wave. And for 3 years, we have been the hottest place on the planet for 3 successive years. We will be water scarce in 2025. Do people know this? Why isn't it being bandwidthed and discussed in cabinets? I brought it to cabinet yesterday. I said this has to immediately, committees are formed. It impacts our food security exponentially, and it impacts water. Water is life, absolutely. And so, we will not be, we are already water stressed, we will be water scarce. And for 3 years, Jacobabad, Dadu, and one other city was in Balochistan, Sindh and Balochistan, were the hottest places in the planet, going over 50 degrees. Europe is burning up at over 40, at just 40. But that is not a livable temperature. 50 degrees plus is certainly not habitable for this planet. The crops are all burnt. If you just go down, you'll see that. And it is a serious national security existential crisis. No, I will not speak in 2 minutes. I will not. If you've got my time here, you will let me speak for as long as I need to, which is 5 more minutes. And what I'm telling this community here is that most of you are business leaders. You need to know the scale and size of this, and ferocity and accelerated timeline of this. You need to plan for it in your businesses, because you deliver goods and services. And the delivery of your goods and services, whether they're online, whether they're physical, and the physical world cannot go away, despite our celebration and underuse of the digital world. Pakistan underuses its digital economy. Of course, it should be using it much more. But that's a separate conversation which people will be having here, I'm sure. That needs to be planned for. Do not bring me, a lot of you have brought me CSR pilot projects to greenwash your carbon offsets. My doors are closed for that. Do not, that's what the rest of the world is doing. Stop doing that. Give us something you can do that scales up the industry or even your company. And I will circulate through Nutshell and other forums and through our industries ministry and others what we can do to reset priorities for businesses. Pakistan, just to assure you, has reset priorities yesterday in the cabinet. We will not compromise on our long-term mitigation goals and our promises made. Those are promises to ourselves. But we have shifted focus to adaptation. Adaptation, in simple language, outside of climate science, means the country has to level up its resources and thinking and planning to face down climate disasters. Now that means provinces have to pretty much level up. Our job is to give them policies, nobody is giving them that. We have been started now, we started with hazardous waste, and I will be moving from here to the agriculture task force, and then we will be working on both water and agriculture. So those will be our priorities. We cannot have water wiped out, we cannot have our food wiped out. We're already importing loads of it. And the renewables mitigation targets, we'll be moving on those in any case because we need to use to reduce our import bills, and we have the natural resources. But right now the base load will be coal. That is the case, and that's how it is. I do not wish to be lying to you. So what can businesses do? Businesses need to assess the burden of impact, reset priorities, and suggest to us, have a conference, so you can do that. We will facilitate what you need. Suggest to us what you need from the government to help you plan and adapt to the new climate catastrophe, because it's a catastrophe, it's not going to change. Obviously, innovation and new tech will play a huge part in this, the digital economy will. Offset. We are signing on all the textile companies onto Pakistan Net Zero, which really just means that they start reducing and capping their emissions, which many can do. So many of the big companies, especially the Karachi-based ones, are signing on, and we are giving them the caps to do that. All of you can be responsible, and more sustainable. You can build in green tech and green goals. We can sit with you to do that. We can have a separate session for that, but Asfar wanted me to set a kind of bigger, broad-based goal, and I had to share with you what's actually happening in the country, because I don't think anyone had figured this out, nor had this ministry even wrapped its head around the level of crisis. I'm going to end with just saying, I'll give you an example. Look at IKEA. We all know that Swedish company. A lot of Swedish companies are into high innovation, and that's what this leadership conference is about. And they are looking at, they're procuring their wood, 50% of their wood from sustainable forests, and 100% of their cotton from farms that are compliant with the better cotton regulations. Now you can start looking at that. Your human resource can also start, your procurements can start looking at that, and you can begin innovations in your own company. There's packages in Lahore. They are doing a vast amount of recycling, but not enough. So there are companies that are they're enhancing their climate literacy. They are looking for better technology, and they're seeking to decarbonize their own production cycles, their manufacturing cycles, and even if they're agri-tech companies. Now, agri-tech can assist us and each other a great deal. Agriculture is one of the biggest emitters of global gases, almost 80%, I must say, 80 to 85 in Pakistan. Shocking figure. So I really need to get to that agriculture conference. They're using all the water almost, and they are one of, without even knowing, a big emitter all over the world. So we've all got to eat, right? The human race needs to eat. So we have to figure out what to do on our own time, in our own space, because the rest of the world is just not coming to anyone's rescue. Everybody is looking for nature to set back its default. It's not happening, ladies and gentlemen. We all have to do what we can. And if any of you need access, opportunity to engage, or any knowledge that you want to share, innovations that you want to bring to the table, our doors are open. If Asfar can't get you to me, then very few people can. Thank you very much for your time. I'm so sorry I exceeded my limit. Thank you.
वफाकी वजीर मौसमियाती तब्दीली शहर रहमान बिजनेस लीडर्स समिट से खिताब कर रही थी।